Bandwidth for this podcast is brought to you by Ideate Software. Be sure to check out all of their great Revit applications designed to increase your productivity. We're recording a BIMThoughts. Who would have thought we would have thought about thinking about BIM, but now we're thinking and we have thoughts. So here we are. We're BIM thinking. We're BIM thoughters. We have the fabulous, the way cool, Nick Fredricks. So define yourself, Nick.
Ooh, define myself.
Define yourself.
Well, I am BIM guru, I guess.
BIM guru. Okay.
I guess that's where I started, at least. Now I'm more of a developer of sorts, running FlyPaper technologies. So I don't get to do the BIM coordination as much as I used to in the past, and I do kind of miss it a little bit.
Really?
But I do. I miss being on job sites and things like that. That's where I started. It's I miss that a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah, well, it looks like you're up in the mountains, so I guess you would be a guru.
No mountains, just trees.
Just
pretty
trees.
flat,
okay.
Pretty flat here near Detroit. So
near Detroit. Okay.
Yeah.
So you are the FlyPaper and Sherlock person, I hear.
Yes, I am. Yeah.
How did it all get started?
Yeah. Sherlock has kind of an interesting story behind it. So does FlyPaper. Sherlock kind of partially is the origin story of FlyPaper as well. I was a project engineer for a construction company named Barton Mallow out of Detroit. Back in 2014, I started with them, and we started a project at the University of Notre Dame, the Campus Crossroads project, which is a project where they added 3 buildings around their stadium so that they could add suite spaces, but also they could add a lot of their academia into the buildings that were on their stadium. So we started that in 2014, and around 2015, I was kind of trained to take over the BIM coordination of that project. It was the first project I had ever coordinated. And it was quite a thing to get thrown into a $500 million project and told to coordinate it. I quickly found myself running out of time to do the coordination of the 3 buildings at the same time. Kind of ran into the problems that I think a lot of BIM coordinators run into, where our meetings were at first not very productive because I hadn't prepared enough. And then I realized that it would take me a very long time to prepare as much as I needed to. So things like grouping clashes before meetings, I identified that pretty quickly as something that I really needed to do before we had our coordination meetings. And then I realized that would take me a day to do for all the coordination we were doing. So at that point in time, I kind of dabbled in development a little bit. So I just started kind of hacking together and during my nights and stuff, what became Distill, the feature of Sherlock, so that it would automatically group clashes for me. And then as we went through that project, the other 2 features of Sherlock got developed, just kind of after a coordination meeting, when I realized that, hey, everyone is asking me where something is in a model over and over and over again. Maybe I can make a little tool for that. So I'd go home at night and develop that little thing and bring it back to the coordination team, and we'd keep moving on. So it's it was kind of just it was a labor of love, and just really just trying to save myself time. And then after we got closer to the end of coordination on that project, I kind of realized maybe that there's maybe I can save other people time outside of just myself, So why keep something for just myself when I can try to help everybody else in the industry? And I reached out to the president of Barton Mallow, Ryan Maybach, and asked him if he was interested in possibly selling Sherlock and creating a company around just in general construction software. And he was a very forward thinking person, and he said, "Yeah, absolutely, let's do it." So we in 2016 toward 2017 ish, we formed FlyPaper Technologies as a separate company, so that we could start development on new things and also sell Sherlock and continue the development on it, and continue to refine it. Part of the reason we made a separate company was to try to, separate ourselves from Barton Mallow, the contractor, and actually have just a standalone technology company, so that we could kind of, quell some of the fears that maybe Barton Mallow competitors might have of using a piece of a product that was quote unquote developed by Barton Mallow, which it at this point it is not. But yeah,
I feel like I want to know more about your background. You didn't give us enough.
Sure.
Right. You're just like, yeah, I was on this project and developed this tool. Like that. We need to know more. How did you tell us how you learned all this stuff? Tell us about where you went to school, what your background's like.
Sure. Yeah. I guess I actually come from a family that is in construction. I'm third generation in the industry. So I grew up with my dad's construction company behind our house. So I would run front end loaders and bulldozers and stuff like that on my off time. So I was just, I just kind of like grew up in the industry in that way. But I went to school at the University of Michigan, got a mechanical engineering degree there. Thought I was going to go into manufacturing and that kind of stuff, and like automotive, like everybody does around Detroit. But quickly realized through internships and things like that I wasn't ever going to like that job as much as a job that's in the construction industry. So I got a master's in construction management after that to kind of bring myself back into the industry. And then I started working at Barton Mallow after that. But as far as computers and programming and all that kind of stuff goes, I had been playing around with computers my entire life, almost breaking my parents' computers. They actually bought me my own computer because I bricked their computer twice. So they were like, no, you can have your own, you can break your own things. And then in college, I kind of got into some groups with some professors that were trying to do some autonomous robotics. And that kind of formalized my training in development a little bit throughout that. And just kind of throughout my entire life, I've just kind of gravitated toward developing things and, making websites and things like that. My friend was a DJ in college, and we would DJ at frat houses, but on the off time, I would create chat rooms and stuff for him to be able to broadcast his DJ music, and we'd be able to communicate with people that are listening in real time and stuff like that. So a lot of just little programs here and there throughout my life.
So it must be kind of like living the dream. You're like, the two worlds have collided, right?
They have, yeah.
That's pretty awesome. Not many people have that opportunity.
Yeah, I'm super thankful for the opportunity to have it too. I mean, I owe a lot to Barton Mallow for that, to just be able to be sitting where I am now and still get to be in the construction industry and still get to go to job sites and stuff like that, but can also just work on development and stuff like that now. So it's a lot of fun.
Well, it just goes to show that being passionate about something can really carry you through regardless of what it is that you're working in, right? I mean, taking a passion in programming can take you so far in construction into bounds and niches that you didn't even know were possible, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I also think I mean, a little lucky with, having a passion of programming because you can apply it to so many things. So it is kind of just worked out that one of my passions, at least, I was able to also bring into the construction industry. So
I think that maybe I would have said that you mentioned that Burton Mallow, and I'm forgetting his name, the president there, was very forward thinking to think, hey, we should make sure we bankroll this up and coming company. I would go a step further and say that you were very forward thinking to ask that question. A lot of times when you're in an organization and they give you the time to develop something for the organization, you take it and you run with it, because that in itself is very rare, that you get that R&D time within it, and having the forethought to think, there could be something more here. I'm going to go ahead and ask the question. And
and to continue on that train of thought, Carl, to take it another step back, that you were developing this tool for yourself, for your projects at night, your time off work, right? I mean, that's awesome. And I think that a lot of the time is what we're hearing from people on BIMThoughts, right? Is that, these types of tools are something that you needed at work that made your specific role easier, your tasks, your workflows, and it's where it's taken you today.
That passion, that maker spirit. The other thing that's a little bit different with your story than a lot that we've had here on BIMThoughts is that you decided to dive into the Navisworks API. You hear lots of people that are playing with the Revit API, a lot more documentation, a little bit easier to do. Can you give us a little insight on what it's like behind the Navisworks curtain, if you will?
Yeah, you're right. The documentation of the Navisworks API is pretty lacking.
Well, and for you to say that, I mean, the API for Revit is probably lacking as well, but really good in comparison, I'm sure. So I apologize.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I've dabbled in the Revit API as well, and that's very true. I spent a lot of time on the Navisworks forum for the API. There's like one guy from Autodesk on there, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he answers like everyone's questions. And he was a really good resource, but you just had to dig through a lot of that type of like forum stuff to be able to figure out how to do a lot of things. But it's they don't have a lot documented, and sometimes it took a little bit of ingenuity to get around a lot of the things that Navisworks doesn't really want you to do. At least they don't seem that they want you to do. And to make the application run as fast as it possibly could, it did take a little bit. But
what was your biggest challenge?
I think the biggest challenge was, in the first place, coming up and continually tweaking the algorithm for Distill. I think coming up with something that would be something that every coordinator could be comfortable with and understand, or at least like the output of. Every coordinator is different with the way that they want to see things grouped, or the way that they run meetings and things like that. So really taking the time to make something as generic as possible, and just have something that would appeal to the masses of BIM coordinators. I think that was probably the hardest part. And also just keeping everything simple, because that's what we really try to do with Sherlock, especially, is you should be able to just use it. You shouldn't need a ton of training. You shouldn't need a ton of setup. You shouldn't need any of that stuff. And that a lot of people don't realize, but that it takes a lot of effort to be able to keep all the settings and the tweaks and the like little customizations out of an application, and really make it work for everybody is a tough thing to do.
It's hard to tell someone, no, you can't have that setting.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it could get carried away very, very quickly, I would imagine.
Well, and I think that's
Mhm.
one of the nice things about Sherlock is exactly that, is that it's very easy to use, it's user friendly, and you don't feel like you're missing customization settings. You don't feel like it because there's not a lot of things there to do it. As you
Hmm.
said, Nick, it just does what it's supposed to do. So that really helps, and I can imagine that on the design side, even on the UX side, that becomes a bit of a challenge, because if I could do this, well, if I let them do this, and they're going to want to do that, and that goes to this, and then we've got these 20 things. But now you've got a product that's super fast, that does what the majority of people need to do, and it just works. There's no value you can put on the fact that something just works, especially when you're working with the construction and coordination industry. That's it. That's the number one feature everyone wants.
Well, not only does it look like the interfaces are super clean, right, and super intuitive, which really makes a difference, and we really do appreciate that hard work. So, because those of us here at BIMThoughts do know how much, I mean, just a code is a challenge. So, you know, but also the videos on your website. I mean, the 1 or 2 minute videos is super clean, super intuitive. You mean, just show the tool and what it does super well.
Mhm.
So really wonderful, not just in terms of the tool itself, but also marketing tools.
Yeah, thank you.
What do you get from the industry in terms of some of the comments, in terms of the favorite things, or we wish it did this, or those types of things?
Yeah, early on we got a lot of like, wish it would do this, wish it doesn't really quite fit my workflow, that kind of stuff. But we've over the years we've really refined it to the point where not a whole lot of people are requesting additions to the three features anymore, or anything like that. That's kind of is fitting into that, or into their workflows, like the way that they envision it at this point. Um, as far as other things that people are asking for, there's a couple things that are on our roadmap that that people have been asking for a little while, and there are a couple like different batch operations within Navisworks that they're interested in. Um, One being able to batch export selection set models, so like little bits of your model, so that you can use it in 4D when you've got to have the ability to kind of turn on and off different portions of a model in a 4D application when you hook it up to a schedule, so that you can kind of see your building being built when they're doing that outside of Navisworks. So we're working on a batch operation for that, and then things like the people that still use Navisworks for all their coordination. They really like just changing names of clash groups to be able to like assign them to people, even though there is assigning functionality in there, and stuff like that. They love just editing the names to kind of put notes and stuff in. So there's some batch operations coming for being able to auto add like a prefix or a suffix to all the groups in that they've got selected, and things like that. Small little tweaks to just be able to kind of make their day-to-day process a little bit better.
That's pretty cool. And I think was there any other missing sort of upcoming features that we didn't cover that we might you might let us see again? I'm going to use the behind the curtain analogy.
As far as like, I guess, what do you mean?
For Sherlock specifically, and then
Mhm.
then we'll delve into your new product daily,
Yeah.
which I'm very keen to hear about as well.
What
Yeah.
can we see? What's coming new in Sherlock? Sure, there's something
Yeah.
new that
Yeah.
you're
So
excited about.
there's those batch operations that we're working on,
Uh-huh.
and then uh, we are always looking at Autodesk has their BIM 360 coordinate with auto clashing and things like that, that they're kind of
Hmm.
trying to take people a little bit away from Navisworks. And that works for easy clashing and things like that, and it's great for people that have never done coordination before, but it doesn't have a lot of the functionality in it that what Navisworks has, so a lot of coordinators won't move to it yet. So we are planning on kind of trying to, as they open up the APIs for it, create a layer on top of BIM 360 Coordinate where you can start using some of the Sherlock features on top of your BIM 360 Coordinate models, through Forge viewers and things like that. So we are kind of working on that. That's a whole new world because that's not a plugin anymore. You're building an entire application that has to run, which we're fortunate that we've kind of built a platform over the past couple of years to be able to release our latest product, which is our daily product. So we're kind of in a good spot now to be able to roll out features like that can integrate well with the BIM 360 products.
So I guess that leads to the next question, and you mentioned it, your latest and greatest product, daily. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So we released daily to the public, I believe, in January of this year, and it's a superintendent daily application. It's mobile, it's web, it's all of the things that you come to expect now with everything. And right now it does what superintendent daily applications do. But we kind of, we have a vision for it that goes beyond what it can do today. I mean, we really see it expanding into a things that superintendents do every single day, day in and day out. So trying to simplify their workflows for all the various things they do, from planning of activities the day before, or doing poll planning, doing things like that beforehand, before that work is actually put in place, and then all the way to the verification of work in the field as well. So we see that we can kind of have a story there where we can really kind of simplify a superintendent's day-to-day work.
That's pretty cool. I think that kind of that solidifies the idea about what you were doing before you were programming, working on the coordination and working with Barton Mallow on the construction site. That brings some of the insight into the where did this daily option come from? Mm-hmm. And having that functionality, one of the things that I've done through my time working on job sites and just selling software to people that work on job sites is one of the biggest things that the superintendents is going to value is their time. And it's really hard to understand until you've been part of it. But, sitting in that trailer on Friday night, finishing writing up all those reports that you had to do through the entire week is such a drain when you could be home watching little Timmy's soccer game or whatever the case may be. And so something like this that's easy and to use, portable, use it where you need to be, and to make some of those things that can be actually done without having to wait till that Friday when you can, sit down on the job site, everybody's gone home, is a big difference. And that's where you get buy-in. You get those champions super easy when you can show them the value of their time.
Yep. Yeah. So similar to like what we've done with Sherlock, we tried to save BIM coordinators time. That's what we're trying to do with daily as well. We're trying to identify those points in their workflow that we can really absorb some of that time so that they don't have to do it. We like to say that we try to leverage computers for everything that they're good at and leave the users to what they're good at. So whatever a human is good at, you should be doing. The top level thought, the actual like interactions with everybody on the job site and having and kind of coordinating all that work, you should be doing. But we should be able to be shuffling all those papers and doing all of those reports and things for you automatically behind the scenes. So
absolutely.
Just because we were talking about your roots of getting into this, Nick, and sort of playing with the API, what was your first program of choice? C#, Visual Basic, Python?
Yeah. Well, when I was in college, I mostly did stuff on websites and things like that, and then did a little bit of Python when I was doing robotics work. And then C# was actually the first program I wrote in C# was actually just before Sherlock. We also on that Campus Crossroads project, we were told, or Bart Mell at the time used Prolog. It was back back before, good BIM 360 and things like that. And I was tasked to train everybody and like set the document control system up for that project. And I looked at it, and there was no way I was going to train all of our subcontractors and all of our project engineers on that thing. So I actually wrote a program that sat on top of Prolog in C# that made it so that we could fully just work in PDF forms. And then all of the data would just get put into Prolog and logged in the way that, the company wanted to be able to track everything. So that was kind of my first thing into C#. And then because of that experience, I was able to quickly write Sherlock when I started doing the BIM coordination on that job.
That's pretty cool. Were you doing Java, PHP? What were you doing with the websites?
Yeah, mostly PHP and JavaScript, that kind of stuff for the client side. All of what we do now is still C# for Sherlock development, but for daily in our platform, we do everything in Node.js and JavaScript.
Nice.
So
you must have a question now, Bill, about the PHP, since you're diving into that realm yourself.
I am struggling. Well, I'm struggling. I'm trying to figure out all the new security stuff that we have to go through now with the APIs, and how to send the tokens, and how to get the tokens, and do all of that other good stuff, and accept the certificates and not accept the certificates, and tell it to ignore if it's self-signed or not self-signed, and things like that. So that's where my head's at these days. That, and my head's also in the Azure space, which is, you thought BIM 360 was big? Yeah, that's why they call it 365, because there's 5 more things.
Better.
Yes.
It's like turning it to 11 because it's 1 more than 10.
Turning it to 11. Yeah, turning it to 365 is what they're doing.
That's right.
That and figuring out the best way to sync our on-prem databases, SQL and MySQL, up to the Azure cloud so we can do Power BI. So that's where my head's at these days. It's in the cloud and it's fuzzy.
Yeah, I think a lot of people's heads are going there.
Yeah, the cloud is a vast place. That's
yes.
One thing when we back in 2018, we hired Dan Stevenson, who's now our CTO of FlyPaper, and he came with 15 plus years of cloud expertise and all that, because that is me. I call myself a scripting person. I'm not a super great programmer. I can write programs, but I don't do it for a living. I mean, I do now, but I didn't come that way. So Dan has really been a godsend in that way to really formalize and get our actual technology company off the ground and to build our platform. And we use AWS, and AWS is just as big as Azure Cloud. So it's it's been a learning curve for myself for a lot of that stuff. Right,
and all the protections and the things that you have to do to keep your client's data secure.
Yep.
Yeah, it's fun.
So I think I have a final question for the night.
You have a final thought.
All right.
I think I have a final thought. Well, final question for Nick's thoughts. So what is one tool within FlyPaper, or one feature of a tool, that you think everybody should know about, everybody should use? They're not using it, they don't know about it, they're doing it wrong.
You guys talked about it a lot, so I mean now I think people know about it a little bit more, but I honestly, to this day, my favorite feature is Orient. I just love that big red arrow. It is so useful for so many random little things, like just for yourself to use, for isolating models. It's for just pointing out, you select 2 different things, one thing in the structural model, one thing in a piping model, and just right click and it isolates it, and you can see the whole run. it's a really nice little tool. You can use it in a lot of different ways than just pointing out a location to somebody.
But it really does make a working meeting like functional for those
It
types of
does.
things, right?
Yeah.
Like not everybody has to go back before the meeting and analyze the 100 clashes that they have, before coming to the meeting so they feel prepared, because you can just click it and see it and know exactly what you're talking about.
And you
And you also don't have to, not only are you spending time doing that, Bill, but you're also not having to spend the time breaking your models up and doing all this crazy stuff because you're creating the sets for me, right? You're doing all of these wonderful things to not just orient the building, but break the building up and create all of these wonderful sections and zones. I mean, analyze the reports better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Make better use of time.
Because what are you doing otherwise, right?
Right. Time's the only thing you got.
Mm-hmm.
So, Dana, I know you said you had a last question, but I'm going to try to sneak one last one in
Oh,
here.
here we go. Here we go.
Last.
Because we heard the origin story of Sherlock, but I heard it from a birdie that maybe the origin story was a little bit different, and that really Sherlock came about when you were solving crime in London. So I really had to ask about that here. What was that you were doing, and if you were at 221B Street? Is that what it is? 221A?
Or were you just a fly stuck on the paper?
There you go. And that's how he learned.
Yeah, no, really it started when I was in London and I went to this really cool Clash party. And
yes, Clash parties. I love that.
We're definitely making stickers for that, though. Absolutely.
Yeah, Clash.
That's brilliant. It's such a better term. It's such a better term.
It is.
Right. So maybe your
It's
next
way more
product is
fun.
called Rave.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that does really fit back into the whole thing where we used to DJ at raves or
exactly.
Right.
See, it came all the way around 365, right?
Circle.
365.
Wow.
It's like Azure.
We better quit now.
Around 365. Came around 365, then we're 5 over.
Yep. A little extra.
5 over. It's 35. We're 5 over in Auburn.
It's crazy.
It is crazy. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on BIMThoughts. We had a great time. We learned a lot, and I hope you did too. And make sure you check out our friends over at Sherlock and get all their great stuff.
Yeah, you can find us at FlyPaper.com, and we've got a Discord and all that kind of stuff there, and we've got a blog there as well, and all of our social media is on there. So reach out to us in a lot of different ways.
Absolutely.